On tonight's broadcast, Voice of the People, the future of Iran may hinge on the results of tonight's election. War of words. Sarah Palin fires back at David Letterman in a fight that has moved quickly from comedy to politics. On the stand, American student Amanda Knox on trial for murder in Italy. Today, we finally hear from her. High office. Can you guess which 85-year-old former president jumped out of an airplane today? And game on for a small town struggling through some hard times. Our Making a Difference report tonight. Nightly News begins now.
From NBC News World Headquarters in New York, this is NBC Nightly News with Brian Williams.
Good evening. This is election night in Iran, and this is what it looks like on Iranian TV, the English language version they pump out to the rest of the world. Graphics a lot like ours. Problem is, we just don't know if we can trust the numbers on them, and the stakes here could not be higher. Today's election in Iran has seen record voter turnout, long lines to vote. Polls have been kept open late. Young people, of course, could make the difference in this election. An out-of-nowhere challenge to President Ahmadinejad. Each side tonight announcing their own results. It is a tense and confusing night in Iran. Our own Richard Engel is there to start us off. Richard, good evening.
Good evening, Brian. Iran tonight has gone into lockdown. International phone calls have been cut. So have text messages. It came after the controversial and still contested announcement by Iranian state television that President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad won today's election, an election that inspired the hopes of millions who came out on the streets today to demand change.
The mood was electric.
Police, Iranian officials have made it clear they will not accept social unrest. Brian?
Richard Engel on a tense night in Tehran, Iran tonight. It was just 8 days ago, remember, President Obama spoke in Cairo about a new beginning in the Middle East. And yet all they can do at the White House tonight is, like all the rest of us, watch the returns come in. Bottom line, we don't know who the victor is. We don't know when we'll know. Savannah Guthrie at the White House tonight. And Savannah, I understand State Department is saying pretty much the same thing at this hour.
That's right. They don't regard as credible the Iranian state news agency's declaration that Ahmadinejad won. But like the rest of the world, they don't know who did win. And here at the White House, officials are steering clear of any appearance of taking sides.
Have a great weekend.
How closely you're watching Iranian...
Leaving a Rose Garden event today, the president turned around to answer a question about Iran's elections and was quick to mention his own recent outreach to the Muslim world.
After the speech that I made in Cairo, we tried to send a clear message that we think there is the possibility of change. The fact that there's been a robust debate hopefully will help advance our ability to engage them in new ways.
The administration has been trying a new tack, diplomacy, in a relationship that has been tense for decades, from U.S. support for the Shah's regime to the hostage crisis of the 1980s, and more recently, worry about Iran's nuclear ambitions. But overtures that started on Inauguration Day,
we will extend a hand if you are willing to unclench your fist,
including a New Year's message directly to the Iranian people and offers of direct talks, have so far been rejected by President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad. Analysts say even a new Iranian president won't resolve everything.
It will be a tone change. It will not be a game change. That is, that no new president is going to completely reverse Iranian policies.
So is there an Obama effect in Iran? Most analysts say no. The election's really about their own domestic politics, like the economy. And one other foreign policy note, the UN Security Council, Brian, today cracked down on North Korea for its nuclear activities, issuing new sanctions.
All right, Savannah Guthrie this Friday night on the White House North Lawn. Savannah, thanks. To American politics now, what started out as a joke and quickly moved into the serious realm, this dust-up between Alaska Governor Sarah Palin and David Letterman. He made a joke on his show this week about Palin's daughter and a baseball player, and the talk since has been about whether he went too far or whether she overreacted. Our report tonight from NBC's Andrea Mitchell.
As Republicans search for a new message and a new messenger,
it's The Late Show.
Sarah Palin is battling David Letterman with Matt Lauer this morning.
Okay, Matt, I would say that you and anybody else are extremely naive to believe that very convenient excuse of David Letterman's the other day.
Letterman tried to declare a truce last night.
I think everything's going to be great because she called today and invited to take me hunting.
But all is not forgiven. Not after Letterman joked about Palin's daughter and another frequent target, tabloid favorite and Yankees slugger Alex Rodriguez.
One awkward moment for Sarah Palin at the Yankee game. During the 7th inning, her daughter was knocked up by Alex Rodriguez.
After Palin excoriated Letterman in a written statement, he apologized, sort of.
Am I guilty of poor taste? Yes. Did I suggest that it was okay for her 14-year-old daughter to be having promiscuous sex? No.
It was probably, by most standards, in bad taste, but can you really connect the dots to criminal activity?
I connect the dots to a degrading statement made about young women, and that does contribute to some acceptance of abuse of young women.
She also accused the media of going after her children, but not President Obama's.
Barack Obama said, "Family's off limits. You don't talk about my family." And the candidate who must be obeyed, everybody adhered to that, and they did leave his family alone. They haven't done that on the other side of the ticket, and it has continued to this day.
Of course, Palin's older daughter wasn't shy about appearing during the campaign, on the Today program, and this month on the cover of People magazine with her baby. The National Organization for Women has sided with Palin, putting Letterman in their media hall of shame. Still, for Palin, could all this be a distraction?
I think David Letterman did take a cheap shot at her. I thought the joke went a little too far. I think she is snatching defeat out of the jaws of victory by overreacting a little bit now.
And tonight there is no sign from Palin that she is ready for a ceasefire. Andrea Mitchell, NBC News, Washington.
Tough new regulations on cigarettes and all kinds of other tobacco products came one step closer to law today with the House approval by a 3-to-1 margin of the bill passed overwhelmingly by the Senate just yesterday. President Obama, a struggling smoker himself, said he looks forward to signing this bill into law. A former president of the United States today jumped out of a perfectly good airplane and sailed safely to Earth. It was hardly the first jump for George Herbert Walker Bush, but there was a reason for this one. Today, 41 turned 85, and he says he skydives because he can no longer play golf. Our report from Kennebunkport, Maine, and NBC's Ann Thompson.
At 85, with 2 hip replacements, former President Bush couldn't resist another chance to jump. Skydiving above Kennebunkport, Maine, his summer home, the 41st president celebrated his birthday, sending a message to older Americans.
Just because you're an old guy, you don't have to sit around drooling in the corner. Get out and do something. Get out and enjoy life.
Guiding President Bush down from 10,500 feet, the Army's Golden Knights. Bush flew in tandem with Staff Sergeant Michael Elliott.
He was trying to find his house. He's like, "Where's my house at?" And I pointed his house out, and he's like, "I wonder is Barb down there yet?" He was concerned with his family being there.
Mrs. Bush waited on the lawn in front of the church where his parents married.
Bar, what'd you think?
Where's my hero?
Sweeter than her pre-jump advice.
She teased me, said, "Well, it's a good thing you're doing it at the church. It's only very little far to move you, you know."
On water and land, people cheered with his family. 2 brothers, a sister, 5 children, and 14 grandchildren.
Get the boys over here. President, come here.
For a minute, a former president and a former governor were simply proud sons.
Governor, doing good. These are 2 of my boys on my birthday.
So are you guys planning to skydive with me anytime soon?
No. You thought about it?
Perhaps the senior Bush's exuberance all comes down to a promise he made to himself 65 years ago during World War II.
Flying over the Pacific, 20-year-old George Bush, the Navy's youngest pilot, was shot down by the Japanese and parachuted to safety. He swore his next jump would be of his choice, and it has. A flyboy then and now, and he hopes again on his 90th birthday. Ann Thompson, NBC News, Kennebunkport, Maine.
Another milestone here. Television as we know it, the way it's always been broadcast in America, is officially dead by the end of the day. This was the switchover day to digital from analog. For the folks who see us via cable or satellite, it means nothing. For the folks with an old school TV with an antenna on it, it means it won't work anymore. It's a useless appliance without a converter box. There were still people buying up those boxes as late as today. FCC had 4,000 special phone operators taking questions and complaints. Few problems were reported. At our NBC station in Milwaukee, WTMJ retired engineer George Kasdorf, who was there when the station went on the air in 1947, today pushed the button to digital. And with that, the TV signal that has come into homes for 6 decades went dark, replaced by a new one. When our broadcast continues on this Friday evening, courtroom drama, an American college student in Italy charged with murder. For the first time, she is telling her story from the stand. And later, we know there's no crying in baseball, but they came close until a savior arrived. It's our Making a Difference report. In Italy today, an American college student on trial for murder testified in her own defense in a case that has riveted the country and raised a lot of questions about whether she is receiving a fair trial. NBC's Keith Miller reports tonight from Italy.
She appears like an all-American co-ed, an honors student with a winning smile and active in school sports. But in Italy, she is at the center of the most sensational murder trial in the country. The Italian press calls
spent almost 2 years in prison. Regardless of the verdict, Knox's life will never be the same. Keith Miller, NBC News, Perugia.
Back in this country on Wall Street, the Dow was up 28 points and change, enough to push it into positive territory for the year so far. When Nightly News continues along the way on a Friday night, remembering a beloved member of our family 1 year later. It was a year ago tomorrow. We were in a helicopter hangar at an air base in Afghanistan. We were winding up a week's worth of Nightly News coverage on the U.S. troops and the war effort, and that's when we got the phone call that we had lost our friend Tim Russert. It will be a year tomorrow, and it's been a rough year. There was something about college commencement season this year that made us really miss Tim, because Tim Russert loved doing commencement speeches. He was good at it, and thus he was in high demand. And so we thought that might be the very best way tonight to mark this past year and how much we miss our old friend.
Let me be honest with you about experiences with commencement addresses. I've been through several of my own. I've sat through dozens of others. I can't recall a single word or phrase from those informed, inspirational, and seemingly interminable speeches.
You have something others would give anything for. You believe in your God, in your country, in your family, in your school, in yourself, and in your values. Remember the message our parents and grandparents and teachers repeated and have tried so hard to instill in us. A belief if you worked hard and played fair, things really would turn out all right. And after working and interviewing senators and governors and meeting popes and interviewing presidents, I think they're right.
Reject the conventional wisdom that success is only for the rich or the privileged or the Ivy League educated. People with backgrounds like yours and mine can and will make a difference.
Climb the ladder of success. Enjoy yourselves. You've earned it. It's the American way. But please do yourselves and this world one small favor. Remember the people struggling alongside you and below you, the people who haven't had the same opportunity, the same blessings. For the good of all of us, please build a future we all can be proud of. You can do it. Have a wonderful, meaningful, and decent life. Work hard, laugh often, keep your honor. God bless, be careful tonight, and of course, go Eagles.
That was, of course, a blatant plug for Luke Russert's alma mater, Boston College. And this weekend, we will be thinking of Luke and Tim's widow, Maureen, and we know we'll be joining so many of you in thinking about our friend Tim. Back in a moment with our Making a Difference report right after this.
Making a Difference, brought to you by Vesicare.
And our Making a Difference report this Friday night is about what happens when bad times come to an American town and threaten a part of life. The answer in this case, it took some people who cared enough to literally go to bat for the place. Our report tonight from NBC's Kevin Tibbles.
In Greenfield, Ohio, Kevin Tibbles, NBC News, Greenfield, Ohio.
And a couple of quick notes here on a Friday night. As fans of these reports may have noticed, our Making a Difference reports have had to give way to a little other news of late, but we're surely still in that business. They're coming back, and we need more nominations from you. You can post them on our website, nightly.msnbc.com. Two more items. First, David Gregory's guest on Meet the Press this Sunday morning, Vice President Joe Biden. And don't forget, tonight decides the Stanley Cup. That's tonight right here on this NBC station. So for us for now, that's our broadcast for this Friday night and for this week. Thank you, as always, for being with us for all of it. I'm Brian Williams. Lester Holt will be here with you this weekend. We, of course, hope to see you back here on Monday night. In the meantime, have a good weekend. Good night.
Next week, we the people, nosotros, la gente, many cultures united by one dream. A special look at Hispanics in America on Today on NBC.